Thank you to Keeneland's bugler, Steve Buttleman, for another outstanding performance. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Tom Leach. On behalf of Keeneland, we'd like to welcome you to this very special event here in the Keeneland Sales Pavilion, where so many great racing careers have been launched. Typical of going to the track, you get a secret tip and the windows open and it's even money. So I don't think there's any surprise about why we are here today, but that doesn't diminish the excitement at all about the news that you're getting ready to hear about. Thanks to all of you for coming out today to be with us. Thanks to all who are joining us around the world via the live streaming coverage. And I would like to now introduce the chairman of Breeders' Cup, Fred Hertrick.
Thank you, Tom, and thank everyone in the room for coming out today. This is a monumentous occasion. The Breeders' Cup is coming back to Keeneland. Is that exciting? As you all are well aware, 3 years ago, the Breeders' Cup enjoyed a spectacular homecoming when the 2015 World Championships were held here at Keeneland for the very first time. As many of you will recall, it was an amazing week-long celebration, including 2 fantastic days of racing at the historic and majestic racetrack, whose management and staff delivered a first-class performance for our guests and dignitaries from around the world, capped by American Pharoah's Grand Slam victory in the Breeders' Cup Classic. The interesting thing with the Breeders' Cup is, yes, it has been a successful venue for a long period of time, but when we came to Keeneland 3 years ago, you all raised the bar that everybody else has to get back to and hopefully raise the bar again. I've been told by a speaker that we're going to have here after myself that the bar will be raised again when we come to Keeneland. Simply stated, Keeneland and the people of Lexington really hit it out of the park. Through bold initiatives and large-scale investment, Breeders' Cup and Keeneland came together to transform these grounds to accommodate over 50,000 fans on Saturday, including the addition of state-of-the-art chalets tailored to the desires of our international, national, and local guests. As you all saw, Keeneland, the city of Lexington, and the Commonwealth of Kentucky provided to be the model to showcase the World Championships, honoring their commitment to deliver world-class experience for all. The Breeders' Cup is much more than just World Championship horse racing. It is an annual lifestyle celebration that includes the best entertainment, sport, food, wine, parties and fashion, and the tours of the bluegrass and all it has to offer. The Breeders' Cup is so excited to be back here. The city of Lexington and the surrounding communities extended true Kentucky hospitality, showcasing the rich heritage, culture, and entertainment of the bluegrass and the support of those championships. The 2015 Breeders' Cup was also a great thank you to our Central Kentucky breeders and nominators who have been vital to our success since the inception of the Breeders' Cup, funding the purses for what began as a 7-race, $10 million Breeders' Cup Day in 1984, to our present programs of 14 races over 2 days with purses and awards exceeding $30 million. So as we gather here again 3 years later, on behalf of the board of the Breeders' Cup and the members of the Breeders' Cup Limited, our foal and stallion nominators, and our fans from around the globe, it is my distinct honor and pleasure to officially announce that the world is coming back to Keeneland, and the 2020 Breeders' Cup World Championships will be here once again. I will say, as you're aware, this isn't much of a surprise today as it was announced around the world yesterday. And I understand we got a lot of credibility from the Los Angeles Times, which definitely makes it credible now. And as you likely have heard as well, just a few hours ago, we announced Santa Anita as the host site for the 2019 Breeders' Cup, and later today, we'll be officially announcing Del Mar as the host site for the 2021 Breeders' Cup World Championships. Today is a very special day in Breeders' Cup history, and we are so delighted to join forces with the Keeneland President Bill Thompson and his management and staff for the 37th running of the Breeders' Cup on November 6th and 7th, 2020. We also would like to acknowledge and thank you, the Governor and the Kentucky State Legislature, Damon Thurman, who is behind us and helped us with the passage of our House Bill 259 earlier this year, making a permanent waiver on the excise tax for pari-mutuel wagering at all future Breeders' Cups in Kentucky. We are very pleased to be celebrating a homecoming once again. We also want to thank, which you'll hear from later, Andy Barr, Representative Andy Barr, who is instrumental in always helping our industry and helping the Breeders' Cup, as well as Mayor Gray, who helped put that fantastic program together in the city of Lexington for the last Breeders' Cup. We are so very pleased to be celebrating homecoming once again to Keeneland in 2020. In closing, let's take a look at a short video honoring this special announcement. Thank you.
The idea for this very event was first hatched here by a storied horseman. His notion, a series of championships to settle which horses were the fastest. It's a vision that has grown and grown, not unlike the yearlings born here every year, each of whom carries the hopes of being crowned a champion, even perhaps a legend, as we witnessed here in 2015 at a homecoming for the ages. In 2020, the world's best returned to the birthplace of racing, Keeneland Racecourse, for the 37th Breeders' Cup World Championships. And once again, to see just who has the fastest horse.
So great to see all those scenes of the throngs of people that were around the paddock and around the rail as American Pharoah came storming into the stretch that day to win the Breeders' Cup Classic. We want to say a special welcome to Keeneland board members who are with us today, Breeders' Cup board members, members of the Lexington Urban County Council, members of the Kentucky Horse Racing Commission, all of whom are with us for this very special announcement today. I remember in 1985, Lexington was chosen to host the Final Four for college basketball, and there were questions about whether this community could pull it off. There was a tremendous community involvement at that time to make it a rousing success. The same thing happened here with the Breeders' Cup at Keeneland in 2015, and that happens with strong leadership. Please welcome to the podium the President and CEO of Keeneland, Bill Thomason.
Thank you, Tom. And I've got to tell you, there's a few times that I've stood up here and actually been overwhelmed, and this is kind of one of those. First off, I send my same thanks to every person and their part in bringing this Breeders' Cup back that Fred has talked about, our officials and those that have supported us so much, you know, from Congressman Barr, Senator Thayer, for everything you've done, Mayor Gray. We send those same sentiments and appreciation because that's what it takes, and that's what it took to make this first Breeders' Cup successful. And before I say another word, the reason that this Breeders' Cup's coming back is when you look around this room and you see these purple caps that are here to celebrate with us, that's a Keeneland team. And those are the people on this grounds that are passionate about this business and passionate about this mission and passionate about our fans who show up here at our racetrack and show up at our sales and are part of this business. And you're why this is coming back. And I want to say, first off, to each and every one of you as well, thank you for what you do, and thank you for being here today to celebrate with us. So that's who's done it. I mean, we talk about the Breeders' Cup coming back to the cradle of the thoroughbred business, a place that understands the horse, that loves it, that welcomes people when they came to these grounds. It's a part of our life. It's a part of what happens. Within 30 miles from here, where so many of these athletes are born and raised, and they come back here and they get to compete. And we've got a community that understands that and appreciates it. So when people were talking to me about how they came to Keeneland and they felt so welcomed and they couldn't open the door for themselves, we said, you know, all you got to do, you can be here at Breeders' Cup, but you've just got to come back in April. It's the same thing. It's what they do. It's what we do. It's how we care about our fans and the people who come here, and we care about our horses. And that's what makes it so special. And that's why the bar has been set. So many of those horses are raised here. We understand it. We get it. To think that 99 of those champions have walked on the stage right here before they began their racing career. And they've gone on to win 107 of those races. And so many that have been, 47 that have had their last prep race right on the top of the hill at this special place, getting ready to go out across the country, wherever the Breeders' Cup was, and compete at the highest level. One of the things that I've got to tell you that I'm the most happy about, along with all the other stuff, is the most asked question that I've had to answer ever since 2015. I finally can answer it. And it's been, when's the Breeders' Cup coming back? But guess what? It's coming back in 2020. We're excited about it. Our community celebrated. Fred, we talked about raising the bar, and I might have said that we're going to do that, because I can't tell you that there were some questions when they came here, you know, when we were first putting this together in people's minds. There was never a question with all these people that are wearing these purple hats around here about what the event was going to be. It was going to be spectacular. It was going to be special. They had confidence. And ever since then, when I thought they wanted to rest, the community and our partners and the people who were involved in that first Breeders' Cup, I thought they were going to need just a little bit of rest and a little bit of time to do it again. Oh, that's not what I've heard. What I've heard from everybody is that, God, that was great. It was fantastic. We enjoyed it, everything about it. When can we do it again? Well, it's here. Our community's excited. The group that was put together for local events and the things that were going on in this community, I don't know whether y'all remember, but in 2015, that week was not the most beautiful. So we've got a whole week of activities that really people didn't get to experience like we wanted them to be able to experience. So that's coming again. And I cannot wait to see what the community's got involved for all those guests that are going to be coming in here from all over the world in 2020. This whole event, this sport brings out the best. It brings out the best in our people, in our community. We get to showcase all of that to the world in a way that's unique, that only Central Kentucky can do, and only the people who are involved in the Breeders' Cup can do. We want to thank the Breeders' Cup board. We want to thank all of those in making the decision for trusting us again with the most important event and a world event in racing. We're not going to let anybody down. We're not going to let our fans down, and we're not going to let our industry down. We appreciate that. We accept that responsibility. We accept the challenge of upping the bar again, which our team is going to do. And all I can tell you is that we can't wait. It's going to be an even greater spectacle than we saw in 2015. So thank you. And with all that, it's my pleasure to introduce Congressman Andy Barr. Andy is a staunch supporter of this business. He loves our industry. He fights for us in Washington every single day. He's one of those people who has courage to tackle challenges. And Andy, how great it is for us to have you here today for an exciting event, and we appreciate you being a part of this. Andy Barr.
Thank you, Bill, and thanks to Keeneland, and congratulations. It's great to be with you all to celebrate this very wonderful announcement today. It's true everywhere that those of us who were born and raised in Lexington, whenever we would go around and visit with people from around the country who came to that 2015 Breeders' Cup, they inevitably say that was the best Breeders' Cup World Championships that ever has been put on. When is Keeneland going to have that event again? And it's great to be here to celebrate the 2020 selection. Fred, thank you for your team and for your willingness to come back. And Craig Fravel and your entire team, thank you all for having confidence in Keeneland and Lexington. No industry is more synonymous with our Commonwealth than the thoroughbred breeding and horse racing industry, which has long been a source of jobs and opportunity for the people of Kentucky. I'm proud to be the co-chairman of the Congressional Horse Caucus and to represent the horse capital of the world. 10 of the 13 Triple Crown winners were foaled right here in the 6th Congressional District, including American Pharoah and Justify. And Lexington, of course, is surrounded by more than 400 beautiful horse farms. And now Keeneland will be home to 2 Breeders' Cup World Championships. The running of the 2015 Breeders' Cup World Championship brought great economic impact to this region and national recognition to Central Kentucky, and we look forward to these championships returning to the Bluegrass. With the privilege of representing this great industry in Central Kentucky comes the responsibility for fighting for its future, and I will continue to do that in my capacity as a member of Congress. Let me congratulate Keeneland and thank all of the Keeneland officers, including President and CEO Bill Thomason, Bob Elliston, Vince Gabbard, and Brad Lovell for all of their hard work in bringing this world-class event back to the heart of the thoroughbred industry. I look forward to witnessing history here again at Keeneland at the 2020 Breeders' Cup World Championships, and thank all of you all in the purple hats for making it happen. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Congressman Barr. This takes a multi-tiered effort, not just the federal government, but state and local, to speak to the state of Kentucky's role. Please welcome to the stage a great fan of this sport, Kentucky State Senator Damon Thayer.
This is a red-letter day for the horse and hospitality industries here in Kentucky. And I'm so proud that literally months after the General Assembly made permanent the Breeders' Cup tax credit, where we, in a hugely bipartisan fashion, said to the Breeders' Cup Board, we want you back in Kentucky. We want you back early. We want you back often. Literally months after that passed and signed into law by Governor Bevin, here we are today to celebrate the Breeders' Cup coming back to Keeneland in 2020. We all know the effects on the horse industry. Keeneland, as a sales company, knows the effect of the Breeders' Cup when it is here in Kentucky. We're going to see it this fall with the fall sales right on top of the Breeders' Cup at Churchill Downs. But one thing we don't always consider is the tourism effect. This event is going to have a $65 million economic impact from Lexington to Louisville and Frankfort and everywhere in between. Where I come from in Georgetown, all of our hotels will be booked up. There's no doubt about it. Everything in between. So it's a huge effect on our tourism industry. I see Secretary of Economic Development Terry Gill here. What a great opportunity for Secretary Gill and Governor Bevin to use the Breeders' Cup as a way to encourage even more businesses to come and locate here in the Bluegrass State. You know, I wasn't born in Kentucky, but I came here as soon as I could. 26 years ago, as a matter of fact, to work in the horse business. And I admit, I have a little bit of Kentucky pride. And as I was looking at Twitter at the announcements that were posted about the other announcements today at Del Mar and at Santa Anita, those are great facilities, great venues. I was a part of a great Breeders' Cup with my friend Mike Ziegler in 2003 at Santa Anita. But I can guarantee you that they didn't have the kind of turnout that we're having today here in Kentucky. We've got members of the Racing Commission like Mark Simendinger and Brett Jones. We've got business leaders like Luther Deaton, Secretary Gill. And where else can you go and see a Democrat like Jim Gray on the stage with Republicans like me and Andy Barr? Keeneland and the Breeders' Cup brought us all together. You're not going to see that very often, folks. You know, I'd be remiss if I did briefly rise to a point of personal privilege and talk about someone who's not here. My former Breeders' Cup colleague, longtime Senior Vice President of Racing, Pam Blatz Murph, who passed away earlier this summer. Pam was at the Breeders' Cup right from the beginning, and she helped build it to what it is today. And I see her protege, Dora Delgado, down here, and I know she's proud of you and the great work you're doing at the Breeders' Cup. And I know Pam is smiling down on us today, and she is very proud that this event is coming back to Keeneland. During my 8 years working at the Breeders' Cup from 1999 to 2007, we ran the event at a number of medium-sized venues like this: Gulfstream Park, Lone Star Park, Arlington Park, and Monmouth Park. And it is really difficult to try to fit 45 to 50,000 people into a facility that wasn't made for it. These temporary facilities take years of planning, months of execution for all of it to come off on the 2 days of the Breeders' Cup. And I have never been to a facility who did it as well as Keeneland did in 2015. And so I think it says a lot to Bill Thomason and his staff and all of you folks here in these purple caps. What a tremendous compliment to you, what a tremendous compliment to Central Kentucky that the Breeders' Cup has made this tremendous vote of confidence to bring this event back here in 2020. I've been going to the Breeders' Cup for 40 years. As a fan, as a member of the Breeders' Cup Notes team with Amy Gregory, and 8 years when I worked on the team over there. I started in 1988 when it was at Churchill Downs for the first time. One of the greatest days of racing anyone has ever seen. And one thing we know for sure, when this event comes to Kentucky, we make great racing memories. From Miesk and Ali Sheba and Personal Ensign in 1988 to Found and Tepin and American Pharoah in 2015, some of the greatest racing memories in the Breeders' Cup's history were created right here in the horse capital of the world. I'm confident more great memories are going to be made at 700 Central Avenue, Churchill Downs this fall, and I'm also confident that in 2020, this facility and its team and the great people of this Commonwealth of Kentucky who support Keeneland, we're going to make more great racing memories right here at this venerable facility. Congratulations to the team here at Keeneland. What a great win for the Commonwealth of Kentucky.
The Keeneland team members that Bill Thomason saluted rightfully stick out their chests with pride because of how they feel about this place. It's the same for the citizens of this community. Nobody knows that better than Lexington's mayor. Please welcome to the stage, Jim Gray.
Thanks so much, Tom and Bill. And, you know, in 2015, Keeneland and the city of Lexington and the state of Kentucky, the Commonwealth, we hosted our first Breeders' Cup. And it was to rave reviews, record-setting attendance, $65 million in economic impact, and Senator has already talked about it. It was a fantastic Breeders' Cup festival. And we all know that with these great employees, with these great employees in these purple hats, it's going to happen again. I also remember back in 2014, it was Barry Weisbord, then the publisher of the Thoroughbred Daily News. He questioned our ability. Some of you are smiling. Bob Quick, you're smiling. He questioned our ability to host the Breeders' Cup. Well, Bill and Fred, you and your teams, and many others, turned him around. After the races, Barry said it was spectacular, one for the ages. He wrote, "I could not be more impressed with how Keeneland, the Breeders' Cup, and Lexington handled the event." Yes, the international spotlight was on Keeneland and Lexington. And we all together, we exceeded expectations. Hosting that first Breeders' Cup changed Lexington too, inside and out. We grew up in the eyes of the world, and our citizens found a new reason to be proud, another reason to be proud of their hometown. And since 2015, Lexington's growth has continued. We're home today to some of the best restaurants in the country. Our art scene and the programming for it attracts national attention. Our downtown is booming. By 2020, we will be well on our way to having a spectacular new linear park, the Town Branch Commons, a reinvented Rupp Arena, a new convention center, new hotels at Center City, and much more. And we are now home to the Breeders' Cup headquarters offices. They are in our beautifully restored historic courthouse, which is officially reopening this fall with an exciting visitor center and restaurant. Back in 2013, in a State of the City address, I was talking about Lexington, and I quoted one of the people who played a key role in getting the Breeders' Cup started, Keeneland's very own Ted Bassett. Here's what Ted said back then: Lexington is on to something special. Lexington is just the place to be today. He was right then, and Keeneland and Lexington proved it in 2015. Something truly inspired will happen here again. Another milestone and another chapter that extends the rich and storied Keeneland history and legacy into yet another remarkable event and time right here in Lexington. Thank you all.
It brings our program to a conclusion. Our featured speakers will be around to answer questions. We invite everyone to hang around for refreshments and to celebrate the good news that we are announcing today, the Breeders' Cup back at Keeneland in 2020. Thank you for coming out.